Our 2025 summerweenie has finally come to a close, and I have a lot of books to talk about today. I'm going to wrap up the entirety of summerweenie, but since I'm covering over 30 books today, I am not going to give too many synopses. The only books that I do have synopses for are books that never showed up in a TBR or a haul, so they're new to you. And they were new to me because they were most likely a random mood reading pickup of some sort. Otherwise, I'm just giving you quick thoughts, quick reviews, and I'm going to try to keep most of these pretty succinct, just so you have a reference video for the past 10 videos. I try to put out 10 anythings for Summerween, and so you have 10 stuffs. Today I'm wrapping up everything that I read in a time. Now, keywords that I'm going to be using, I do this every Summerween, is I'm going to talk about intrigue a lot as well as fear, because I am so deeply of the opinion that a horror book has to have an element to it that makes me want to explore the basement, is how I always explain it. It's not just about being scared, but there has to be something about a horror book that intrigues me, the intrigue of it that brings me into the forest, that makes me want to be scared. Because horror books are more than just the monster and the scary place. There's an element of humanity interacting with that. And there has to be that element of, why are you here and why didn't you just go home? In a sense. So we're going to be talking about that a lot. You're going to hear that word come up a lot. And I am, for the purposes of editing and YouTube flagging certain words, I'm going to tell you now, there are triggers in a lot of these books. So please take care of yourself and take the time to look up triggers on your own. That's not what I'm going to be focusing on today. This is truly just quick little reviews of the 30 plus books that I read for Summerweenie of 2025. That's enough of an introduction. Let's get to the books.
Thing to say.
Before we get into the books that I actually read, I would like to start this video talking about my DNFs. We had quite a few this year, and I think we topped our DNF from last year. The count that I did last year was we didn't have any DNFs due to fear, whereas this year we had 6 books DNF'd due to fear. I think that alone shows that this Summerweenie was very different than our last. I was picking up books with the intent of being scared rather than the intent of dipping my toes into, I've got something, I can feel a dog hair on my lip gloss. Okay, I think I got it. Being a dog mom is truly like 75% feeling hair attached to my body. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so this year it really felt like, so last year was my first time ever dabbling into the horror genre. I know myself of somebody who is just scared. I'm genuinely scared. When I watch horror movies, don't tell anybody I told you this, but I'm a jumpy person, so jump scares get me. And it's not so much just what I'm seeing. I can't take the like music building up. So I watch scary movies with my ears closed a lot of the time because I can see what's happening. So I'll literally have the movie going and then I'll have the subtitles going so that I can read what's going on. And then I'll plug my ears. That's how I watch scary movies. So I'm scared. So last year was my first time ever doing a horror introduction to the genre. And I feel like last year was just, I was playing it safe. I was trepidatious going into it. And I did read a lot of things that kind of was on the edge of just like spooky. This year really felt like I was discovering the limits to which I can handle horror. So that brings you to my DNFs. We all know that there are 3 DNFs when I dabbled into the extreme horror genre. And those first 3 DNFs and the biggest DNFs were It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I DNF'd at page 25. Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. I DNF'd at page 215. And Credence by Penelope Douglas. I made it to 170 something, I believe, in that one before I decided I had to get off the roller coaster. I had to evacuate the premises on that one. Outside of that, I DNF'd The Bird Eater by Anaya Alborn. That one was a DNF just because it was bleak, and I do think I'll give Anaya Alborn a shot again. I might even try that book again. It was just my headspace at the time, and the reason I say I'll try her again is, as an author, you have to be writing well for me to feel that bleakness and that melancholia so deeply to where I was like, I need to step away from this. I need to step out of this. I don't know if I can sit in this the way the character does. So that does get me excited for Anaya Alborn and her writing ability. I just, in the moment of that time, I couldn't do it. I could not go forward because I was like, just give this guy a break. This is awful. I also DNF'd At Dark I Become Loathsome by Eric LaRocca. That book is disgusting. Absolutely horrifying. I have no other words. I truly felt physically ill reading that book. And I was so grossed out and horrified that I genuinely can't tell you where the plot was going or what the resolution was or what was intended to happen. I felt like the author just wanted you to have a bad time, and I was. And it's so short, I had to stop it. If you want to be grossed out and you're just wanting to dip your toes into something disgusting, and that's a feeling you want to feel, that one did it. It did it. I do believe Eric LaRocca has quite a few short stories that people shout out, but I think I'm traumatized, and I do think that I will be avoiding this author from this moment forth due to that book. The book that I DNF'd on the first page was Let Him In by William Friend. You guys know how I feel about that imaginary friend thing. You know how I feel about it. You know how scared I am of it. And let me set the scene for why I had to DNF that one. I had a busy work week that week. So all of my reading was happening in the evenings, and I didn't really have much daylight hour reading time. So in my dark AF room, it was like windy outside. I think there was somebody also, there's a parking lot kind of near where my apartment faces. It's a little bit away, but it's kind of around the area. There was somebody like talking on the phone out there by their car. So there was talking going on. There was wind blowing. It was dark in my room. And the opening scene of the book was one of those, Daddy, there's a man in our bedroom. I immediately put it down. Immediately. I was not curious. I do not know. I don't care where it goes. The cover is too scary, and it was dark. 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 And I genuinely could not bring myself to experience him going like, oh, let me go check it out. I couldn't do it. And it's such a short book that I wanted to like come back to you guys. Like, you remember how I said that I was too scared? Well, guess what? I'm that business. I'm not that girl. I put it down. 2 paragraphs in. That was enough of that. So, if any of you guys did it, please tell me how it went. But like, in like a fun and fresh way, not in like a scary way. Please. My honorable mentions for DNF that were DNF not because they were scary, but because they came to me at the wrong time. Oh wait, actually, one of my DNF honorable mentions was Our Winter Monster. That book was just so poorly written, I should have DNF'd it. I don't even want to talk about it right now. I did a whole video on why this book is deplorable, and I spoiled the ending. I talked about it. I ranted about it. I can't think anymore and give this book any more of my time. Should have DNF'd. So that's an honorable DNF mention. I also DNF'd a book that I think I might go back to because do you ever have those moments where you're mood reading, you're kind of dabbling around, you're trying to figure out what you want to read, and you pick up a hefty book and nothing's wrong with it so much as you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know if I want to be in a book this long right now. That's all I felt with this one. It was pretty thick. And while I am excited about the concept of it, I just didn't want to be in a long book at that time. And then by the time I was ready to be in a long book, the library was like, hey, we would like that back now. So I returned it. Might go back to it. The reason I might go back to it is this is The Butcher's Daughter, which is based off of Sweeney Todd. I love Sweeney Todd in one of those ways where I was like, is this great cinema or do I just want to kiss everybody? You know? You ever have those? Just me? As a high schooler, the sheer amount of musicals that I was watching, and I was like, do I want to kiss everybody here? Hairspray? But Sweeney Todd was a movie that I watched and rewatched. I loved it. But this book starts off in the abandoned apartment of a missing woman. This missing woman was a detective of sorts. I don't know. I didn't get too far into it to find out. Or if she was a journalist. She was either a detective or a journalist who was sending letters to a woman that she believed to be the wife of Sweeney Todd. And it's this letter back and forth. Well, one-sided letters, because of course you don't have the letter she sent. You have a collection of the letters that she had received. And you're going through this dossier of evidence that is actually sent to the chief investigator because they do believe that they're going to be able to find Sweeney Todd's partner in crime. And I love the idea of it. I love the writing of it. I actually really did enjoy the tone of it. I just didn't feel like reading a long book at the time. Sue me. Now, before we get into the rest of the books that I actually did read, I did want to talk about the mental health breaks that I took throughout Summerween. One of them was Underland by Robert Macfarlane. This was a nonfiction that I initially wasn't enjoying. Is a story just of what is beneath your feet. There's a lot of discussion of cave systems, the depths of the ocean, root systems, fungal systems. It's a lot of what's underneath the ground. And I find that one thing that I love about certain eco nonfiction is that it makes me feel so small. I love books that remind me that this is an ecosystem of life and I'm just a connected piece of that. And this did it well. But the reason I didn't enjoy it at first was it felt haphazardly strewn together. It felt like I was talking to a slightly drunk man about his adventures. And he was sort of bumbling around several stories. At first, I didn't like that. I wanted it to be more organized. I wanted more actual information, whereas this really felt anecdotal. But once I sat with it, I just enjoyed the time spent. I am so sorry if you hear a lot of chewing in the background. I gave my son a new antler to chew on recently, and he's loving it. I'm not going to take it away. Like, I'm so sorry. If you're hearing that, he might stop soon. He might not. Anyways. Once I just kind of allowed myself to go on these adventures and just enjoy that I was experiencing different parts of the world that I otherwise wouldn't, I think that's what I had to sort of replace myself into. It wasn't I was gaining information. I was experiencing places of the earth that I otherwise would never be a part of. I felt the claustrophobia of crawling through this cave system. I felt the depths of the Arctic. I felt these cold places. I felt all of this. And it was such a good time to be able to see corners of the earth that I know exist, but have such a personal account of it. Once I allowed myself to enjoy it in that way, I really had a good time with it. Are you done with your snack? Was that enough? You want to come sit up here with me? Come on. Come on. Good boy. shifted over a little because I think Tchai wanted to be included. The next book that I read for a silly, goofy time to take a break from how afraid I was, I read The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. I actually listened to this one on audiobook, and while I know this book is YA, when I say it felt juvenile, I'm not talking about my characters, I'm talking about the writing style. In the headspace that I was, just wanting to not be scared anymore, I wasn't too upset about the juvenile nature of the writing. I genuinely was just like, I just need something to not be scared of. And there was it was like a girly pop nature to the stakes of this story. But let me tell you what it's about. England is ruled by a cruel fairy queen. And she has this relationship with those in her dominion where when a woman comes of age and she's ready to enter the dating market, she goes about a bargain with the queen. These women will go into the room with the queen, close the door behind them, and come out like missing a finger, missing a toe, with losing the ability to taste sweets. And they'll gain better ability to converse, better ability to play the piano, better ability to sing, looking slightly more visually appealing. All of these things the women use as a means of gaining a husband. This bargain with the queen is often now understood as a way to better yourself in the marriage market. Our main character, Ivy, her sister had gone to a bargain once and disappeared. No idea where she went. And due to her disappearance, it sort of tarnished her family's name, and her family is hard on money. Well, this year, the queen's son, the prince, is putting himself on the market, and all the women who want to be considered can enter into a little bit of a competition for his hand. If you are not chosen by the prince, then you cannot ever enter the dating market again, and you must die a spinster. The reason I say it feels kind of girly pop is one of the intense scenes were all the girls fighting for his hand in marriage, dancing in the mud until they could dance no more. And it was really spoken about like you were at a jousting tournament or an insane tournament of wills and stakes. They're dancing around and she's like, thank goodness I accidentally wore my boots. And girls are slipping after they're getting tired. They're fainting away. One's accidentally tripped by another. So there's like I said, a girly pop nature to the stakes of this, which actually I had no issue with. I did have a good time. My problem came about where it felt like the author knew the ending reveal that she wanted to reach, but she didn't much care how she got there, because the pacing and the story itself started slipping at, I would say, the 60% mark, but then it all tied together in an ending that was, I believe, a pretty good time. And I can see how this would continue in a series, because the reveals, the ending of it did feel great. It just felt like my author too deeply knew where she wanted to go, but didn't care about the journey too. Then I had a 1-star read that was Talk Dirty Cowboy by L. Thorpe. This one, the FMC was insufferable. She just wanted problems where there genuinely were no problems, and I could not stand her. So the way that our romantic interests meet each other is each of them are a parent to a child who plays online video games. The two sons play each other in online video games, and then one day they talk to each other just to make sure the other isn't creepy. Well, she's approaching him like he might be a creep, but he's approaching her in a, I hear you singing loudly and happily in the background all the time. whenever her son is playing the game, she likes to embarrass him by singing in the back. And the guy whose son plays is like, I can hear your joy. I can hear how happy she is. And I'm so attracted to that amount of joy. So they connect in that way. And then they build a friendship because they'll get on and play each other and chat, right? Well, she just got out of a divorce of a pretty emotionally abusive and toxic man. He is a famous bull rider who fell off and has been on a losing streak since his wife passed in an accident. Now that he's back in the bull game, he keeps losing, but he wants to win it in the name of his past wife. He wants to get back on the bull, and he just wants to win in her name to show that what he's doing isn't for naught, right? So these two, they eventually start dating. They got this sort of banter going on. Whatever, I don't care. The FMC kept making problems. For example, they were at a press conference and there was somebody who was asking disrespectful questions about his dead wife, and he flipped. It was disrespectful questions like, oh my goodness, how did you feel like when you were out here losing and you should have been home with your dying wife who got trapped under a tractor? How does that make you feel? Like, he was being mad disrespectful. And the guy, the bull rider, got ticked off, as he should have, because how dare you speak on her like that? Like, respect the dead. Like, that was my wife. Our FMC of the present day was like, he's still in love with her. I don't want to get my heart broken again. Oh my gosh, he still loves her. And then she was like, I'm going to distance myself. I'm going to take space from him. I can't get connected to somebody who obviously loves somebody else. I can't get hurt again. Okay. And then when she found out why he was still going about being a bull rider, right, in the name of the woman that he had lost, she's like, so you're still in love with her? She is dead? And I think she'd only been passed for like 3-ish years. I can't remember. That is not a long time. You have lost somebody. 3 years later, even 30 years later, losing somebody is hard. And this woman kept being like, I can't get hurt again because he loves somebody else. No. Grief is hard. Like, I could not stand how she kept making issues. And there hit a point where she was literally staying on his land because she didn't have a house. Her abusive husband had taken the house out of her name, whatever. Her and the kids needed somewhere to stay. So she went to go stay on the bull rider's land, right? And she was like, I'm just not going to see him anymore. I need to take care of myself, blah, 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 right? Well, he still sees her every day because she literally stays on his land for the free. Because he helped her and she's avoiding him. And he makes a big deal about a romantic gesture. He's going to pull out of the bull riding because he wants her. That's what he wants. He doesn't need the bull riding, whatever. And you know what she says? She goes, don't stop because of me. You've got one more trophy to win. Girl, you literally cried for days, stopped talking to him, made it a big deal that he wanted to win. And now it's supposed to seem like some amazing romantic gesture that you're like, go win for me. That's so wildly controlling. That is so wildly controlling. Also, it's so wildly controlling for her to give and take emotions back without communicating it. That like breadcrumbing of emotion and love and like big, hot, sexy moments and proclamations of feelings, and then to pull away. That, she was so toxic. I couldn't. Also, you competing with the dead mother of his child and his deceased wife. is insanity. Well, meanwhile, in the present day, she still had active drama with her ex. He didn't care. He was just like, man, that guy kind of sucks. Like, grow up. Grow up. After that, I read some hot garbage, but like, okay, let me explain. I wanted werewolves, but I was also in the mood for manga. Then somebody told me about like manwha omegaverse. Now, back then, I was just a sweet little innocent baby. And I was like, oh, cool, like a little werewolf manga. Love that. The omegaverse is different, and let me just clue you in. I have experienced mpreg. Yeah, put that together. mpreg. So here's what happens. Everybody in this world has a second gender, which is alpha or mega or beta. If you are an alpha, you're just this big, strong guy with a huge meat, right? That's literally disgust. That's how you know. They're packing. If you are basically a twink, that is how those are the omegas, right? I might be saying this wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm new here. The third class is like on the verge. They don't really mean anything. They don't get hot and bothered. They don't have the pheromones. Those are the betas. Or am I getting beta and omega mixed up? You know what I'm trying to say? You've got the alphas, you've got the twinks, and then you've got the guys in the middle who just want somebody to love them, but they don't have all the bells and whistles. When these betas go into heat, or omegas, I'm so sorry, I'm going to learn one day. When they go into heat, they're like, oh, they're all boys, by the way. Did I say that? These are all boys. When they go into heat, yeah, dripping. I was looking at it. So let me tell you what, so that's the world. Let me tell you what happens in Love is an Illusion by Fargo. So you have a guy. Let me just look it up because I'm not going to keep saying it incorrectly. I'm over here educating the people. Okay. All right. I've got it. So Hye-sung believed his entire life that he is an alpha, but he just thinks that he's a recessive alpha, not really strong genes, whatever. But one day he finds out that he is actually a submissive omega. How does this happen? He accidentally bumps into an alpha who has really strong pheromones, and that kicks in his omega pheromones, right? So he's in heat. Mind you, when an omega is in heat, it's like dangerous for them to be around people because alphas will just take them. It's dangerous because they could get assaulted. So this alpha, he's like, oh my gosh, you're in heat right now. I'm going to take you back to my house so that you're safe. And he's literally like, all you're reading on these pages is he's like, pant, 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 pant. So one thing leads to another. They can't control themselves. He's in heat, right? Things happen, whatever. The alpha likes this omega, but it's not safe for the omega to just be out and about. It's not safe for him. So he's like, the alpha offers him his home. He's like, just stay here. You can pay me off one day, but it's safer for you to be here than elsewhere. Also, I got a little piece of that, and I would like a little bit more of that. That's kind of what's going on, right? This omega is a dummy. So he literally gets caught in a scam. There's these people, they're like, we just need silly little nice omegas and you can live here for free and you're just gonna be a waitress. No. It's literally like a prosty ring. I don't know if I could say that word. You know what I'm saying? a prosty ring. And he almost gets scammed into being a part of that until the alpha comes and rescues him. The alpha literally rescues this guy and he's like, what are you doing? Just stay in the house. And he's like, how am I supposed to make money? I gotta make money. And the alpha's like, you're dumb. Like, why would you believe this? This is why you should stay in the house. Just, you know what? I'll pay you to clean the house or something. Just clean the house. Well, all the times that he literally goes into heat, the alpha is like, I'm the only one that can take care of you. Because alpha pheromones help calm down the omegas. The omega heat makes them sick. It takes them out of their head. They get dizzy. They get faint. They need an alpha to get them through. And the omega literally pops up in the alpha's bedroom sometimes, beside his bed. And he's like, pant. How did I get here? Oh no, I'm so wet. I'm laughing. I literally read 3 of these in one day. So what happens? That keeps happening. He's there. Our omega gets pregnant. He didn't want this. He wasn't prepared for this. But since the alpha's so rich, he's like, fine, you got to pay me. I'll have this child. And then I'm leaving with the money you give me. And I'm just going to run away. And the alpha just is like, okay, great. But I would love to take care of this child. Please go through it. Please stay pregnant. And the alpha's taking care of him through this pregnancy. He's there for him. He's helping him out. He's getting to know him. And the alpha's catching feelings. The omega, he doesn't feel safe though. He doesn't know why the alpha likes him. He's like, is it my hormones? Is it my pheromones? Does he actually like me? Is he trying to use me? Is he just using me for this baby? What's going on? He has the baby, right? And disappears. Completely disappears from the hospital. And it hurts the alpha's heart because the alpha is like, dang, I thought we spent time together. They were getting to know each other. They opened up about their vulnerabilities. Mind you, the alpha is within the richest of families out there. The richest of families. And he knows that his family would be so ashamed that he has done this with an omega that literally doesn't even have a high school diploma. Right? Well, where was this omega the whole time when he went missing? He was staying in the house of the alphas, assistant best friend type of thing. One of the betas that, they don't have the pheromones, so nobody really picks them. They're not one of the juicy little... Juicy is such a crazy adjective, but I'm sticking by it. They're not one of the juicy little omegas. So the beta hides the omega that just had the baby in his house. And he's like, I'm just going to raise money and we can ship you away. He says, but honestly, alpha, he calls him master. He's like, master deserves better than you. And I don't want you in his life. It's bad enough that you had this baby and that baby is so cute. Love that baby. But you need to get out because you're going to ruin his life. Eventually it comes out, the alpha finds the omega, gets mad at the beta is hurt, and the beta goes and sleeps with the alpha's brother. But the alpha and the omega are working on their relationship. The omega is having difficulty getting let into the alpha's family because the alpha's family are elitists. However, he stands up for himself, but the only issue now is the alpha's relationship with the rest of his family. But he's also working on his vulnerabilities and his relationship with the alpha, as well as trying to be a parent, even though he needs to get his high school diploma, and the alpha is supporting him to get his high school diploma. For research purposes. Because honestly, let me tell you something. The manwha omegaverse is just absolutely disgusting. I can't believe anybody would read this. It is way too graphic. And my sweet little baby eyes can't deal with that. But if you have recommendations for some other nasty person, it's not me. If you happen to know about other BL manwha, yeah, I learned the vocabulary. Not for me. I didn't learn the vocabulary for me. I learned the vocabulary because you're nasty. And if you want to help out, I don't know, another subscriber with some Rex, not me. If you want to leave a little comment for other people who want like a better recommendation, do that for them. Not for me. I'm not gonna do that. I can't believe I dirtied my eyes with that. So just leave a little comment if you have some better acts, so you can help the community of dirty, nasty little freaks that doesn't include me. All right. Let's get into these horror books. That concludes all of the mental health breaks that I took during summerween. Let's get into all the books that I read for summerweenie. Again, I'm not going to really be focused on synopses. I'm really just here to focus on feelings, ratings, reviews, thoughts. First, I read Jekyll by Aaron E. Adams. I think that this one handled certain themes with care. The idea of being Black with an immigrant parent, racial aggressions, living in a small, primarily white town, the fear of Black women going missing, which is very real life. It handled those themes well. However, the werewolf type monster that we dealt with throughout the story and that existed throughout the story, to get to the end of this and the reveal be what it was, really ruined my experience with it. It felt, I don't want to say cop out, but it felt like such an odd way to just tie it up with that explanation of the monster. And then also I think the author wanted me to have like that's a cliffhanger. Oh, fade to black. Oh, what's going to happen? I didn't feel that. I just felt annoyed. But throughout it, I kind of enjoyed it to a degree. It hinges a lot on the disappearances of Black girls, and a big part of the mystery and finding out the mystery was somebody who has no background as a detective, and it's obvious that they have no background as a detective, which I found frustrating, but whatever. I then read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which I enjoyed. Oh, I really enjoyed that. It was such a quiet horror, such a delicate horror, I would say. It was more so a creeping ivy, like digging its roots into the side of a home and climbing up it slowly, rather than an overtly scary story. And I would like to say that it started off with the description of the home. It was built in a way that sort of slanted and just looked a little off, but you couldn't quite tell. There were this many doors over here, but there should be a hallway over here type of a little bit off. I would say also that it's truly a story of loneliness, of displacement, and of not knowing where you belong. And I could feel it amping up in its anxieties. I would say it wasn't amping up in like a scary way, but it felt like the anxiety of it all was just becoming more and more oppressive and more stifling, all to end with you not quite knowing if it's truly a haunted house story or a story of a lonely woman who finally found a place where she belongs. When I was reading through it, I was sitting on like, it's a 3-star experience. But when it came to a head in the way it did, it pushed it up to like 3.5, 3.75 for me. So really enjoyed that. Flowers for the Sea by Zin E. Rocklin is a horror novella that is a story of displacement, the body horror that is birth, the horror that is not having control of or autonomy of the female body, and the horror that is colonization and being displaced as a community of people. I would say that as a novella, it brought forth emotions in a very effective way. But I do think that as a novella, it had a lot of holes, but I don't think I necessarily needed those holes filled, because that wasn't what the author intended. The author wanted to get off feelings, I think, rather than plot. After that, I read The Changeling by Victor Laval, which was a hot mess of overlapping plot lines and different directions that just simply didn't fit together into a book that felt like he had 6 different short story ideas and then did what he could to make it into one big story. However, his horror novella, The Ballad of Black Tom, I highly recommend that one. That one had a little bit of witchcraft. It had a little bit of like 60s New York, and it had a good bit of cult Cthulhu. One special little moment where Cthulhu pops up. I enjoyed it as a story so much. Being brought to a head, it felt like you just existed with this character for a couple of days, and everything fell apart in that time in a very enjoyable way. One of my favorite reads this summerweenie was The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. Now, if you don't know about Clive Barker or The Hellbound Heart, this is actually the book that started the Pinhead. That character comes from this story. And I would say that this is such a story of just utter depravity. It was a story of the macabre. It was sadistic. It was literally every single trigger known to man is in this book. But it opens up in a quiet house on a street with Frank and Julia, who are having an affair. For Frank, this affair began because he has this insatiable need for pleasure. And that insatiable need and want led to him opening up a mysterious lacquered box. And then it leads you into this crazy adrenaline-fueled story on a voyage to the netherworld. It's a story of pleasure, pain, horror, of how all of those things exist together. And it's so bloody and gory and intense. And then it loops back to Frank in an empty room. Julia with unfulfilled passions. And an ending that has a whole lot of just flesh and blood. If you want a short classic, I recommend that one. Oh my goodness, I recommend that one. It's disgusting. It's horrifying. It's, like I said, he wrote the macabre in a way that I hate to say that it's so good, because that's not the word I want to use for this, but it was good. Just a insanely horrifying time. I then read The Weight of Blood by Tiffany Jackson, a YA horror that's actually a Carrie retelling. Now, the way this is built is from podcast interviews. You start off interviewing people. It's a podcast element. And I think that while a podcast element is fun, here it hindered the story in that in order for podcasting as a written element to be good, you have to give a lot of care to each of the voices sounding and feeling unique. They're different people. And Jackson didn't write these people as different. They all sounded very similar to one another, and it made it difficult to sort of track the podcast side of things. So while I wanted to love it, that was the weakest part of it. Thematically, this covered a level of bullying that on a passing Black girl that was pretty horrifying to have to read about. But Carrie is a story of bullying. So it matches, it fits, it's a retelling, but you bring in these elements of Blackness, whiteness, small town, and the first integrated homecoming. I do think that there was an emptiness to the ending that I wasn't crazy about. And this lacked intrigue for me. I don't know, maybe it's because I've read Carrie, but this fully lacked intrigue. And it starts off with like, oh, there's this crazy thing that happened at homecoming. So I should have been interested, but I didn't much care to get answers. And then very little were actually provided. Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. I read this in my scary cover vlog, where I only read books that had terrifying covers. And this one was like a slasher entertainment, spooky monster folk horror. And I want to say entertaining because this one stood out for me in that way. While I was scared, while it was spooky, while there were these terrifying things, there was such an entertainment value to this that I would say that in comparison of Carrie, in comparison of The Weight of Blood, Stolen Tongues gave me the intrigue. I wanted to know what that terrifying thing in the woods was. I wanted to know what the absolutely terrifying, bloody, grisly dream catcher on the back of the house was. I wanted to know who this woman was talking to in her sleep. I wanted to know about the shadows. I wanted to know about the voices. I was so scared, but like with the entertainment of it and the amount of questions I really wanted answered, I powered through. And I think it was actually a very entertaining time. Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin was a story of a woman in a relationship with a narcissistic man. This man was emotionally abusive. He was a liar. He was a narcissist. He was a gaslighter. I think that's the real terror of Rosemary's Baby. The man. He is an absolute piece of cud smeared on the bottom of my shoe. I can't believe that this was a human being written into a story. Outside of my absolute disgust with him as a character, I think Rosemary's Baby was paced really well. The pacing of it as this sort of sense of disquiet. It wasn't so much fear that I felt in the story, so much as discomfort and disquiet in this tale. And I actually loved it being tied up with a little like motherly instinct of the devil. I kind of love that. I would love like a follow-up or something. I do think it's a series, isn't it? I say I would love a follow-up, but I also don't think I would want to read a follow-up. If this were a TV series, I would be into that. Like, if this were season 1, I would watch a season 2 of how this child is raised and what is going on with that. And hopefully seeing that husband simply pass away. Incidents Around the House by Josh M. A biggest issue is that I don't think Josh M. has had a child before, because this story was told in the perspective of I can't remember now, a 6-year-old kid? I want to say 6, can't remember, my bad. And this 6-year-old child experiences a imaginary friend, other mommy. And we all know I cannot deal with the kids and their imaginary friends. Honestly, I can't deal with it. But you know why I think I could handle this one? Other mommy wasn't really described well. since it was described by this 6-year-old, and I listened to the audiobook, and hearing that like fake child voice was grating. I think that I wasn't terrified because it was other mommy's face was crazy. Other mommy had long hairs. Then her face got crazy. The amount of times her face was crazy was repeated because the 6-year-old couldn't describe other mommy. I think that's what kept me okay. If there were a better description of other mommy, I would have been terrified. But the fact that it was just a crazy face, I'm sure that every reader of this book, if they were told to draw other mommy, they would be wildly different from one another just because the description of it wasn't the best. But then following on with, I think the biggest hindrance of this book was not understanding having a child. These parents, like sitting on their child's bed and monologuing their relationship issues, is insane to me. This mother cheating and like monologuing everything, and dad is sitting on the amount that this child just sat and heard her parents say. What parent is dumping this on a child like that? This is weird. So weird. Didn't like that. The Getaway by Lamar Giles is a YA horror that I enjoyed. I would say that for YA, it didn't hold back in its violence. There were some scenes in this one where I was like, my goodness, are we really writing this out in a YA book? I know that a lot of the YA books that we're writing now are for a more mature version of YA. But there was a scene that I literally like gasped myself reading. But I saw this Goodreads review on this one that said this felt like a episode this felt like a Black Mirror episode, and I think that is apt. There was a cinematic element to this, and that dystopian feeling in the setting of it did feel pretty Black Mirror, so loved that. Pinata by Leopoldo Gaut was opened up perfectly. That prologue hit. It was spooky. It was creepy. The setting was insane. The malice, the anger was so good. But that prologue was set hundreds of years before the actual story comes about. And when the story enters the present day, the pace, like the prologue got me amped. And then it felt like it dropped in order to start the story. And it was a bit jarring because it was so slow to get to the possession and the actual spooky elements. Once it got there, it was good. But the jarring nature of that drop and it just feeling so standstill and so mundane for a second, I just couldn't. It felt wrong. I understand wanting your prologue to be exciting and to hit and to reel your reader in, but I feel like there could have been a better way of tying in or not. I don't know. I don't know. It could have been great. Folk horror. I like the elements of it, the imagery of it. It was a good time. It's just get over the way that you're going to be bored for a second after you're so turned up from the prologue. My favorite book this entire Summerweenie was Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. It had an interesting take on haunting, in which a home is not haunted, but people are haunted. And I truly enjoyed this one. I see a lot of mixed reviews on Goodreads about it, but I think it just did the right things for me. It's not a perfect book, but this was my favorite out of all the ones I read. Another book that I actually should have included in my honorable DNF is Brat by Gabriel Smith. I should have DNF that one. It was boring and repetitive. Not my thing. Wasn't my jam. When the Reckoning Comes by McQueen. the more I sit with this one, the more I'm dissatisfied with my reading experience. I had that initial rant in my recent disappointments video, talking about how the ending came together and how the plot just sort of fell flat and how the themes just weren't thought through. But I actually feel so little about her. For us to spend so much time with her, for everything to be about her, and for this whole lesson to revolve around her, for me to think back on the book, there's actually very little that I take from her or relate to from her or sit with from her. So that is something that I've started sitting with. The way our characters are written also didn't hit. So I hate to say it, but I would say that if you've got free time, it is better spent elsewhere than on this one. It by Stephen King, an absolute tome of a novel. I did enjoy it. However, the movie does it well. The movie really does do it well. If you don't want to read the tome, I do think you get what you need from the movie. I don't think these thousands of pages need to be read when such a good film has been made from it. It doesn't mean the book is bad. It's just that it's thousands of pages. It's over 1,000 pages. So if the movie does it, the movie does it. And I think visually, it's a movie that really comes out visually in a really good way. I would recommend the movie, the two-parter from 2017, I believe. The Shining by Stephen King. I would say this was in my top 5 for summerweenie of 2025, just because I talked about this one at length in my Stephen King video. So I'm going to try to keep this brief. I think I literally talked about it for 20 minutes in that video. It felt very human. That's what I want to say about it for my quick review. There was a humanity to this story that I didn't experience from any other story to this degree, except for Love is an Illusion. Manwha, omegaverse, I was feeling some humanity. But no, to be serious, like, The Shining had a level of humanity and personhood that was so potent within this tale that I just honestly could not shout its praises more. That one, though, I would say the book does so much more than that movie. The movie is so good in its own front, but that humanity that I'm talking about is something you're going to find in the book, not so much the movie. I then read Devils Kill Devils by Johnny Compton. I actually did this one on audiobook, and I would recommend it on audiobook. And I would say it was a good action-filled time. There is a main character who has a guardian angel that had saved her life as a child. However, in the present day, this guardian angel pops up and murders her husband right in front of her. Literally, she walks out covered in his blood. And then this becomes a story of what are these? What is her guardian angel? Who is this guy? It's in an effort to like save the world. And I would say, please don't look at the reviews and please don't look at the marketing for it, because I didn't. And the reveal of what this guardian angel is what made this more fun for me. Because at first I was just kind of like along for the ride, but then finding out what this author was writing, I think that's what made it fun. I think it's less fun if you know what the reveal is and what this author is doing with these characters. So if you've already been spoiled, don't do it. If you don't know anything, do it. When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy was so sad. Oh my goodness, so sad. I love me some Nat Cassidy too. Nat Cassidy has a writing style that I really enjoy. That ending, so sad. Broken. Woof. The Unworthy by Augustina Baz-Derrica. A lot of people asked me if I was going to read it. I got this one on physically. The tone of this, the writing style of this, the atmosphere of this was truly chef's kiss. It does delve into like religious cult, end of the world, dystopia type vibes, but otherwise go into it blind. It's so short. Just enjoy the voice of that character and the tone of it and the horror and gore and violence of it. There was such a violence to the story that I think makes it very memorable in a horrifying kind of way. And then the last book that I read for Summerweenie is Hunger's Bite by Taylor Robin. This was a YA graphic novel about something nefarious on the ship. You have cruise members disappearing, you have shipmates disappearing, and you have a new owner of this ship who is a little too smiley. Seems a little too nice. And he's being investigated by a vampire who has stowed away on the ship just to see what's going on, figure out what's happening. And of course, everything blows up. And it's a race to survive. I just wanted to read something with pictures. I had been way too scared for way too long, and I just wanted a little something that had some pictures in it. Sorry, I feel like I started speeding through at the end because I've just been sitting here for so long and my butt hurts. That is everything I read for Summerweenie of 2025. Anybody else who did some Summerweenie reading or did some Summerween reading, please let me know how that went for you. Please let me know how your Summerween had gone. Anybody who did spooky stuff or people who didn't do spooky stuff, I understand being scared. You do not have to put yourself through that. But let me know if you did Summerween and any highlights from it or any spooky things, any movies that you watched that were spooky and you really liked. There was some good horror that I saw come out this summer. Let me know. But I'm gonna talk to you next time.